Hey, and welcome to another Drawing with Dorwin. This is Dorwin. Today we're going to talk about drawing cylinders, cones, and pyramids. I have an example of one-point perspective, but I'm going to show you the cheater way, which is probably the way most of you will end up drawing it. This is the example of one-point perspective cone, cylinder, and pyramid drawing. You'll notice that I have my eye line or horizon line. I have my vanishing point. Then I drew boxes, and each of these items exist inside of a box, whether it's the cone, a cylinder, or a pyramid. Notice that with two of them, the cone and the pyramid, I had to figure out the center of the box and draw up so that each of the sides would lean in. Next, I'm going to show you the cheater way. We're going to take a piece of paper, we're going to divide it into three parts. So just a second here. I'm going to get a new sheet of paper. Okay, this piece of paper is 14 inches long by 8.5. So we're going to divide it into three parts. We're going to just go ahead and do 4 inches, 8 inches, and 12 inches. We're going to make 3 lines and divide this up into make it look like little mini pages. 4, 8, 12. Now I'm going to turn my page and I'm going to connect those lines. 4, 8, 12, and of course, since you guys are going to be turning this in, or you might be turning it in, if you're watching on my YouTube channel, maybe not, maybe you're just here to see what's going on. But if you're one of my kids in my class, write your name. There's mine, your hour. So today I'm teaching 4th hour art. And today's date, today is February 1st, 21. All right, so we're going to pretend like each one of these is going to be each item that we draw. So this is a page, this is a page, and this is a page. So we're going to start on the first one. I'm going to teach you how to draw a cube. First thing we need is our horizon line. I'm going to skip to this smaller eraser, or excuse me, ruler. I'm going to make my horizon or eye line. I'm not going to worry about the 1-point perspective because right now, let's do this one is going to be, we're going to use it to do our cylinder. All right. Now, if our cylinder goes above the horizon line, we wouldn't see the top of it. So here's an example of a cylinder. All right. If our eye line is above the cup, you will see the top portion of it, but you notice you don't see the bottom curve of it. If the cup is tilted above our horizon like this, you'll see the bottom of it, but you won't see the sides. So it's kind of confusing, but I'm going to draw 2 examples. So a cylinder is really a foreshortened circle, right, with 2 straight lines. Since this one is below the horizon line or eye line, it's actually 2 foreshortened circles, but if it's a solid object, we don't see that second side of that foreshortened, so we can erase that out. And that's a cylinder that's below, and a cylinder that would be above, we wouldn't see the top, we'd just see the curve of the can. but we'd see part of the bottom. And our eyes know that instinctively. So, shading. I'm looking for 4 tones. Depends on where the light is hitting it. If I draw a light here, and this is our sun, glaring out, so we have light hitting here. On the top, because it's flat, you can use flat lines to shade. So I'm going to lay in a light layer. Our shadow, we might actually, on a can, because it's a rounded object, we might get a cast shadow darkness right here. So this might be our darkest shaded spot, and I'm just going to do a straight line. We're going to use curved lines to help suggest the roundness of this. And the edges will probably be a little lighter. So we're going to lay in a tone. We're also going to do that shadow right underneath the lip. There's a little bit of a shadow right there. And blend that down. Alright, so now we got to work on our tone and that transition between tones. So there might be 3 zones of toning here. I'm gonna just strengthen the bottom where the shadow would be. This adds at this, oops, let me get that in screen. This light source acts for creating a shadow as a 1-point perspective dot. If everything is drawn to 1-point perspective, then we know that at the edges of the object where it meets the ground, we would draw our shadow. So this object's shadow would come off of here like this. We're going to use straight lines to color in our shadow. And because our shadow is so close to the object, we're probably going to have a pretty dark shadow, and we can just kind of feather that out. So going a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. Till it goes off our page. This is the start of the second page, so we don't shadow all the way to that, all the way through that, right? Alright. Using some cross hatching here. Switch to my mechanical pencil. You can shade with whatever you want. You can turn the artwork sideways. Sometimes that helps. Mechanical pencils are nice because you can get super light with them. I'm barely putting any pressure, and I'm kind of bringing that along. Now if the light is hitting here on this can, we might have a highlight on this side. This side's going to be darker, but we might see a cast shadow actually on the side of the can. Might be a dark layer. So you notice this time I didn't color it in because I want to use the lines to help suggest the roundness. Do you see how, oops, no you can't see. Let me get in a little closer here. Do you see how I'm using light lines, curved lines to help suggest the roundness? Once I've got those laid in, I come in and I lay down that tone. Once you've got that established, you can start to add your other tones. And notice I'm cross hatching here. This side is going to be darker because it's the underside. It's not really being hit with sunlight. Come in with an eraser and maybe lighten it up. Just on the edges. Get a tonal shift if you can. So this is our darkest. A little lighter. A little lighter. There we go. Alright, so that's just a quick demonstration of shading. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tones at least. This one might be a 5th. The shadow for this cylinder might fall something like this. It would fall in line with our light. So it's probably going to be over here if we're drawing it using that as the 1-point perspective. And it might look something like this. Because the shadow's not attached, it's going to be a soft shadow on the ground, roughly in the shape of the object. Alright? So that would be drawing a cylinder. We're going to do the same thing with a cone and a pyramid. So the easy way for drawing a pyramid, draw our eye line first. If it's not perfectly straight, it's okay. It's just to give us kind of an idea of where to go. So I'm going to draw the bottom of my pyramid. I'm going to draw the front face. That would be a triangle. Now this is where you might need to use 1-point perspective. So you would pick a dot on the horizon line. I'm just going to pick there. And I know that, put my lead on there, go to the corner. Alright, a little bit there. Go to that corner, to this corner, draw the line, and voila. That's the cheater way of doing a 1-point perspective pyramid. So we've done cylinder, and this is now our pyramid. Now, if the pyramid were in the air, it all depends on the angle that it's at, but you might see the bottom of the pyramid. It is possible to see something like this, but in this case, we'd have to have a vanishing point some way off in here to see it. And then the pyramid would be shaped like this. So it is possible to see the bottom of it, but could also draw it like this if it were tilted. So these lines might be straight. Yeah, it's getting muddy. Let me get my eraser, erase that out. Alright, so if we did use this 1-point perspective, maybe we draw the back and the front. Our side would go, of that back might go there. The other side might go here. Something like that. And then might go something like that. It might look like a cheese wedge. Alright. That's not my best work. But the easiest way is just to draw a triangle, even if it's upside down. Do your perspective line and draw that side. See how this line goes towards that vanishing point? That's the easy way to do it. Now, if it's above us in the air, might look something like that because it's above the horizon line. So this might be the bottom of our pyramid. Now if we put our sun light hits it, this shades pretty much like we did the cubes. So shading with a cylinder and with a cone are going to be different than shading with a pyramid. So if the light's hitting here, we might get a shine mark. I'm using straight lines to kind of suggest that the sides are straight. This side is going to be darker. We would have a little bit of a cast shadow right along that hard edge. So I'm going to come in and darken that. We'd also have a shadow here. If we use this as our 1 point perspective to determine where the shadow would go, we know the shadow has to fall between here and here, but it's going to come together like a pyramid. We're going to get a hard shadow under here, hard shadow under here. Alright, using straight lines to shade, just going to fill in our shadow. Our shadow is definitely going to be darker than our rest of our drawing. So I'm going to lay in a nice medium tone. And now I'm going to blend this with, by darkening up a little bit and bringing down a darker tone, creating some different tones to help transition from that really harsh to lighter and lighter. So there we've got a pretty good shadow. This side is going to be darker than this side, so we need to really bring in a tone using straight lines. I'm also kind of scribbling this time on this one. You'll notice I'm actually doing little loops. And I'm going to try to transition between that tone and the other one. Alright, so that's pretty much shading a pyramid. You could work on the tones on this side a little bit, because it would go lighter up here and darker down here. But this is your lightest side, so you want to make sure you're not getting too dark. Students actually have a tendency to go light, not dark. And most of the time professors in college and high school will continue to encourage you, go a little darker, go a little darker, go a little darker. It's not really in our nature. But alright, so that's shading on that one. If the light source is here, we might get a little bit of a shine mark on this edge, but probably not, because it's underneath of the sun. So we're going to get a dark is going to be underneath. We might get some light on this side, so this line might actually be lighter. And we see a transition from lightest to darkest. If you do a good job shading, it really brings the objects to life and makes it look more interesting to look at. Draws our eyes in, so it's a good thing to practice. Light might be hitting here, so this side is going to be darker. Our shadow would fall somewhere on the ground, and it might actually fall and look something like that. Like that. Alright, since it's not attached, do you notice it's not attached to the bottom? Alright, this side would be lighter to darker, and it might actually be a little bit even lighter on this side. So I'm putting in some straight lines with tone. Oh, not as dark on this side, so now I need to go in and darken this side more. Alright, so that's the pyramid. So far we've done the cylinder and the pyramid. The cone, or the shadow for this pyramid, might be way over here, and it basically mirrors, or it's the opposite. So if you imagine drawing that pyramid but not having to worry about the details, so that shadow might look something like that. Alright, moving on to our last drawing. Now we're going to do is the cylinder. No, we did cylinder. Cone. We're going to do cone. Got it? Cone. Got it. Get a little closer. Alright, first thing we do is we put our eye line in. I'm going to put it in the middle just so I can demonstrate above and below the eye line. Depends on the orientation of the cone. If it's below, you generally don't see the whole cone unless it's laying down. So you're going to draw an ellipse or a foreshortened circle. Pick a point how tall you want your cone, roughly in the middle, and you draw your two lines to the sides. 1, 2, you erase out what you don't need, and that's it for a cone. Now, if the cone is above you, it depends on its orientation. You could have a cone like this. You could have a cone that faced you like this. If the cone were on the ground, say it was like a hat, like a witch's hat that tipped over, might look something like this. But you notice it's a foreshortened circle with two straight lines that basically line up. So that's how you can kind of cheat it. Now let's put a sun in here. So here is our light source. Alright. On a cone, so if the light is hitting here and we see it, it's just like we did on the cylinder where there's a darker spot. Same thing happens on a cone. So away from us we might see a darker spot. First thing you should do is you should shade very, very lightly with using curved lines. This really brings out shape and makes it look more 3D. And then when you crosshatch, that can help you blend your tones, but it doesn't take away from the straight shapes. The other thing that with a cone is I'm drawing in a ray with my lines, so I'm not going straight up and down. I'm actually kind of going from that point out That also helps suggest the shape. It's darkest right where it touches the ground. In this case, our shadow would hit here and here, and it would make a cone-shaped or triangle-shaped shadow. So now I'm going to come in and darken where my shadow is going to be. Lay a tone down. I'm using straight lines this time, so that helps make that shadow look flat, like it's setting on an object or sitting on the ground. Just built some tone. Now I'm going to come in and blend between that harsher tone and this lighter tone. A little bit of cross hatching. Alright, if the light's hitting this, we're going to have a highlight probably somewhere over here. We use straight lines. It's going to be lighter at the edge and gradually get toned across the side using curved lines to shade. Might be a little bit of light that comes across this top piece. The shade might actually drop down to right to the edge, our dark area, so you might have to change the shading a little bit with this. There are great books on lighting and shading with using different kinds of light. I can't recommend any specific title at the moment, but definitely it's something to be aware of and kind of check out. So I just baked in a shadow. It's just going to basically be the opposite of that shape attached to it. Flat lines to color it or to shade it. Blend it down. Alright, same thing here. We got a little bit of light here. Oh, I didn't finish this one. Alright, see how much more dense that object looks now? And you could do the same thing for these two, but we're already at almost 30 minutes, so thank you for joining me for another Drawing with Dorwin. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help me to make better content. Thanks guys, talk to you later. Bye.